Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We're starting our interviews with candidates for mayor of the city of Salisbury, and today we have Randy Taylor. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Greg. Appreciate you having me.
So let's do some quick biographical stuff. I've known you forever, but people who might not know you, who is Randy Taylor?
Well, I'm from Salisbury. I've lived in Salisbury my entire adult life. I came back here after college, and I've been here ever since. I've spent 25 years in the banking business. So I did commercial lending and managed a portfolio of about $45 million. And in the last 6 years, I have run a company that does restoration, historic restoration. So I buy and renovate and resell older properties in and around Salisbury and the historic districts.
What do you see out there in the neighborhoods when you're out there every day doing houses?
I'm optimistic. I mean, we've got challenges. I mean, I've done one over on East Church Street. It was actually my original home when I came back to Salisbury.
Wow.
And I sold it 5 or 6 years ago. 5 or 6 years later, but bought it back about 2 years ago. Had experienced a fire, renovated it, and resold it. And if you any of your listeners want to look at that project, it shows you what we do. It's at 901 East Church Street on the corner of Church and Troy. So.
People say all the time that we have too much rental housing, but I think the demographics have changed, that people want more rental housing.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think affordability is a problem, and so I think that's a nationwide problem. People have asked me, because I've been kind of a student of the neighborhoods. I was on the board of SNHS, or Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Service, for 12 years. We need to, if we're looking to bring a balance of home ownership and rental, I think we need to create incentives for the seller, meaning the rental owners, and the buyers to come together. And I think Salisbury Neighborhood Housing Service does that to a degree. I think if I were mayor, I would probably put more resources in that to get that balance. I think there's a desire on the part of the landlords to do that, and they want to do that over time more than they've ever had, I think, in the history of the city.
So what triggered this for you? Where were you when you decided, I'm going to run for mayor? Why'd you want to do it?
Well, I was talking to a friend of mine that I think I've probably been preparing for this in my head for about 25 years, and that we've talked about city stuff, and it occupies a lot of our conversation. But really what motivated me was, I think I bring to the table a unique set of skills. I've got people skills and negotiation skills and financial management skills, which I think is a big component of where we are as a history of the city. But what I began to see increasingly was things were occurring that I wasn't aware of. There was a lack of transparency, and the second was that I'm not sure it was getting a lot of buy-in. Which has given birth to as I said on my my byline, which is progress, which I think we can enjoy, and with transparency, which I think involves the public, which I think is a good thing.
Well, I'm really worried about progress, because I want the city to stay progressive. People
Sure.
on the peninsula look to us to kind of show the way on a lot of things. But I'm surrounded now by people who want things to go back to the way they were. Like, let's put Waverly back the way it was. Let's get rid of the speed bumps.
Yeah.
Where are you on some of those things?
Well, I live actually in North Camden, so I'm like one street over from Waverly, and I think I can agree. I think on Carroll we failed a bit. I think on Waverly the first time we failed a bit. I think on College we failed a little bit. I think we're solving problems we don't have and not paying attention to the ones that we do. I'm not opposed to having a pedestrian-friendly or bicycle-friendly neighborhood or city, but I think we can do that, with a little bit more constraint than we've currently applying. And I think most people would agree. I've talked to a ton of people out there in the last couple of months, and it's been like drinking from a fire hose on that topic. There's a lot of, and now we're talking about potentially, I think you're actually independent, you're talking about, you listed the bond projects that they're looking to do. I think they're looking for $5.8 million on Eastern Shore Drive. There's probably some room for some beautification, absolutely, some traffic calming, absolutely, maybe some bike paths on each side, but not reduce it to one lane and make it so you can't turn around or turn on the side streets. That's going to impact that entire area. So I think that's the kind of thing that, and I think when this original Vision Zero got rolled out, they kind of approved a bunch of streets, but they didn't have any details. And so the approval kind of superseded the actual design, and that's when construction started. People are going, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? And that's the kind of stuff we need to end. We need to be very transparent and very more charrette oriented.
I know you've been very vocal about downtown, and one thing you've been really opposed to are these kind of the low bid contracts for city land, where the city came in, took control of property that was in trouble.
Yeah.
Now they're selling it off in the interest of capitalism, because really it should be owned by the private sector, not the city so much.
Yeah.
You're real big on this town center,
Yeah, Salisbury Town Center.
the Salisbury Town Center project.
Yeah.
What's your viewpoint on this?
Well, let me start by saying, first of all, I'm not opposed to development. That's number one. Number two, I'm a banker by profession. I'm not down on development. Let me say, but I've been downtown. I own a building downtown, full disclosure, for 25 years. So I was down there when Feldman's, was down there as an antique store.
And, and you've got Parker Place too.
Yeah,
right
well,
next
we
door.
did
Yeah,
back
okay.
in the day. Yeah, we had a garden center down
Yeah.
there. It was really cool. So I've got a seat at the table when it talks about stuff downtown. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately. As it relates to the lots, the challenges in the central business district is that historically we've been dependent upon surface parking provided by the city. So right now the Salisbury Town Center project buys up a good portion of the surface parking, puts back what I consider to be 20 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag. It's an oversized project, and then pushes all the parking into a parking garage, which I think if you again take a toll of take a poll of people around the city, they don't really want to do that. When in and out parking, you don't need all of it. But we need surface parking that's convenient parking for the restaurants, for the insurance agent, for the lawyers, for the handicap that don't need to go in the garage. All of that's been done in a very expeditious way without a lot of fanfare. I mean, even people downtown, engineers, lawyers, bankers, investors, didn't have any idea as far as.
I mean, I've been at the meetings and I've written about it, and this came up with Unity Square,
Sure.
where people were like, "What are they doing?" And then once they Googled it, they realized we had been writing about it a lot. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not saying there wasn't some components that weren't available.
Yeah.
I think when it came right down to it, I understood Unity Square to be a totally different project than it ultimately became. And maybe there were modifications that were made that I wasn't.
Right.
But I got to be honest with you. Most people are kind of living their lives and running their businesses and doing
Sure.
their thing. So, I think we need to be drenched in it rather than just being like it was in line. It was on line 7 of last month's. Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is that. There's a whole bunch of problems there. They gave away the land, in my opinion, even though the developer said, basically it was worthless. You don't do a $45 million project on worthless land, period, new paragraph. So that's just sort of, I think, spin to say that so the land is not worthless. We gave it away. We're giving away the impact fees. We're not deferring the taxes. We're forgiving the taxes. So we're talking about a several $1 million giveaway, in my opinion, that didn't need to happen,
Right.
while other projects around the city footprint are occurring without any incentives.
Right.
So how is that? Further than that, the parking garage itself, even if it works out to the best possible scenario, I presented 2 months ago, to the city a cash flow that showed that the garage will lose $400,000 a year. And to this moment, including the other night's meeting, no one's ever responded. That's just, to me, bad management and a lack of response to taxpayers, in my opinion.
Let me sound argumentative, and I don't mean
Go
to.
ahead.
I don't mean
Go
to.
ahead.
So 25 years ago, when Frank Hanna got the place for Brew River, the
Yeah.
land there, I think he paid $75,000 for it, and I think he had offered $150, and the city rejected it, and then they came back a couple years later and did it for $75. And I wrote an editorial for the Daily Times like, "This is the dumbest thing the city's ever done." And then I was informed that, wait, there was no other bidder.
Yeah.
We don't want to own this property forever. It's a prime piece of property. We want it to develop. Frank's got a great history of running restaurants. He can develop it. And I was like, it's never going to work. No one's going to eat food next to the Purdue plant. It's never going to work. 25 years later, I'm completely wrong. It's a complete starter for that whole part of town.
Yeah.
So why can't a town center thing that was also put out to bid at a price that everyone says was too low?
Yeah.
Why can't that have the same effect, that same success rate that something like a Brew River did?
Well, I actually have a unique experience because I've actually bought a couple parking lots from the city long ago. They were smaller, much adjacent to our building, and that process was painful, very painful. In the case of as it relates to the Hanna property, there were some other issues with leasing back of the parking and some access to the water and whether we're going to. So that's what held up that deal.
Right.
I think having a restaurant on the river, that pretty much is for me a no-brainer.
Right.
Even with the Purdue plant across the street, it still had a high success rate. As it relates to the Salisbury Town Center project, there was one ad, 3 inches wide in the Daily Times, 3 inches long in the Daily Times in 2015, and we're talking about a deal 8 years later where they've made modifications to the original footprint of the project with no reposting.
Right.
So to me, it's a fundamentally different case. Worse than that, I could almost live with the process if the project was worthwhile, but
Right.
it's not. And it doesn't consider anybody else in the footprint of the downtown. That's the other piece. You know, Frank was doing a standalone project and on the river. It was his deal. This impacts everybody in the central business district in a big way, and it's already being felt, Greg.
Right.
Already being felt.
I'll button up the issue because
Sure,
this is
go ahead. We could go on forever.
a planning and zoning issue, but
Yeah.
but $400,000 is a loss. I'm thinking like the parking garage downtown, which is pretty much paid for, probably loses money too. But it's a service the city has to offer. So even if the new parking garage, by your math, loses $400,000 a year, aren't we going to recoup that through the taxes that are going to come from the town center development and all the people that are going to be there?
Well, $8 million later.
Right.
You know, $8 million between the loss on the taxes and the subsidizing of the garage, which again, we don't even know is going to fully ramp up. I mean, I've done the math. Trust me, I've done the math. And
Right.
in fact, I brought you a cash flow, so maybe we can talk
Sure.
about it next week and put it in the Independent. But here's my challenge. If the city had said, hey, when I presented to the city, if the city had said to me, oh, no, we've done a cash flow. They haven't even done a cash flow. I mean, that's challenging for me. And that's why I'm in this race. I'm saying, listen, guys, you know, whatever your feelings, reasonable people can disagree. These are numbers. We can disagree over them, but
Right.
these are very objective measures.
Right. I just think, again, I'm sorry, as a developer, I don't think I want the government to decide whether my project is good or bad. I want them to support me making the city more progressive and having some growth, rather than just a parking lot in the middle of the urban center of Salisbury.
So again, we don't want to conflate here.
Sure.
I'm not suggesting we don't develop anything.
And I apologize, I sound like I'm arguing.
No, I know. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying not to develop. What I'm saying is the project doesn't work for the entire footprint of the downtown.
Okay.
So, and to your point, as far as government, the government dictates what you're going to do every day on every issue, you know, as far as the permitting and the environmental. And that's the other thing. We've sold six. We got eight, or I think it's 12 total for sale. We got 600 contractors in total, and we've never done a parking study. Does that seem unusual to you? It does to me. You know, if you've got an existing footprint that's dependent upon this parking, and you're selling 2/3 or 3/4 of your parking, and you've never done a parking study, an impact study, even if it's rudimentary. We haven't done a professional one or a rudimentary one. Doesn't that seem unusual? And so, going back to my original
Sure.
point, I'm running because I feel like I offer a set of skills and a set of understanding of things that maybe are missing at the present time.
But as mayor, you still want growth to continue downtown.
I'm very optimistic about the city of Salisbury, and I love the city of Salisbury. I invest every day, my money. I've been downtown. I've been in the neighborhoods. I've been in Church Street. I've been in Newtown. I've been in Camden. I've renovated every one of those neighborhoods. I've renovated and resold properties. I'm optimistic about the city of Salisbury. So that's also to the point. You know, I'm talking about this for 20 years. I've got a tremendous amount of things I would champion that would make Salisbury better, just given the chance. And so I'm very optimistic about Salisbury. I'm not down on Salisbury at all.
So you get elected. Give me
Yeah.
the first couple things you're going to champion. As soon as you get in there, what do you want to do?
Well, I think bring the team together. I mean, I think for me as a customer of the city, I've seen a morale issue, and I think that's probably come from a variety of things. But yeah, I would try to get the team together, kind of reposition. Certainly get the council, in working together with me and be approachable and. I think that's one of the things that one of my stronger skills is my people skills, and I could bring people together, and even if they have diverse opinions.
So the mayor's job is one of those jobs you can do it kind of any way you want. There are no rules. You can sort of be a figurehead guy and kind of let the administration handle things, or you can really roll up your sleeves and get in there. What kind of mayor do you want to be?
I think the latter for sure, definitely. I mean, I think the city's employs I think around 450 people. I mean, it's a big footprint. There's a lot on the table. A lot of projects going on, but a lot of things that need to be managed. And I think as a statement that creating a friendlier, more inclusive, and respectful to the public, I think is where I would kind of start. And in that regard, I'd be definitely rolling up my sleeves on a daily basis. I think that that would be a general starting place for sure.
One of the things we hear where there's competition apparently is between the neighborhoods and downtown. the theory has been for the last 10 years or so that downtown is the heart of the city. We have to fix the heart. That will help the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
What's going on in the neighborhoods? Are there problems out there, and what can the city do with the neighborhoods, or is it all together? Can we do both?
Yeah, it depends on what neighborhoods you're talking about. I mean, there's some neighborhoods in the city that are far and away from the downtown. Having said that, Newtown, Camden, Church Street to a different degree, we're all within walking distance of the downtown. If I look at Church Street 30 years ago and Church Street today, it's got some of the very same problems. I would like to take a more holistic, big picture, partnership approach to it. I'm a housing guy. I think I love neighborhoods. I love older houses. I'd like to see more, people invested in the neighborhoods, to include Newton Street and Smith Street, which I live around the corner from. My little enclave of North Camden, I bought that house, a 15-room rooming house. I converted it back to a single. I raised my kids there. It was Dr. Toll's house back in the day.
Yeah, I got to give you a lot of credit on that, because you were the first to go in there and redo that house, and it really set the tone for that North Camden neighborhood.
Yeah, we added 3 or 4 homeowners through there. Still adding more today. Yeah. And I own a couple of rental buildings in that area, and we know all our neighbors, and we're very friendly, and it's good. I mean, and I think it's probably one of the coolest parts of town, because you can walk right downtown and do Blue River or Market Street or whatever. It's kind of cool.
One thing I heard you say, I heard it somewhere, you said no more vanity projects. And I was like, what are vanity projects? Give me an idea of when you say no more vanity projects.
Well, I think that's a complicated one. There are things that I think the previous administration wanted to do that sort of checked boxes that kind of made sense on a political level, but didn't make sense on a lot of practical levels. And I could label them and I could name them, but there's this shiny penny chasing that's going on that we always want to have a photo op opportunity, in my opinion. You can do a lot of cool stuff and advance the city, but you don't have to follow the trail of the what I call vanity projects. That don't, but I'll give you a small example. Like, one of the things that the environmental committee came up with is they got the bags banned, which I agree with. When I say agreed with, I go to the dump all the time and I see the bags flying everywhere, and I think it's a bad idea. I think it's a terrible idea. But at the same time, we've got the city's recycling trucks going around the city all day long, and they dump the stuff in like they do the regular trash. So how does that make sense from a resource basis? I mean, there's only 7 or 8% of the plastics that get recycled. Okay, we can acknowledge that, and maybe we can do some things differently. Maybe there's some other technology we can deploy. But I'm just saying, let's have a real conversation about that stuff and save some resources and do better. I'm just saying.
But like Town Square, you're okay with that? Because I remember like when you would be at events on North Division in front of the city government building, and it felt like it just wasn't enough space for us to spread out as a city, and we needed some sort of central space. So I love the Town Square idea.
What are you talking about, Town Square? You mean
the Unity Square?
Oh, Unity Square. Oh,
yeah.
The way that they built Main Street now, you can lock that off and make it a closed area, so it's kind of got the benefit of the plaza, but
right.
the functionality of a street. So, in my opinion, I agree. I think we've got the amphitheater project, and we've got the downtown Main Street that we can shut off if we want to do festivals or carnivals or Third Fridays, and that's another thing. I think one of the things I'd like to do if I were mayor is I would try to make the downtown much like Berlin, where we have weeklies that go from soup to nuts, spring to fall, and we're doing events that are like cornhole and national competitions and skateboard events and jazz festivals and things like that are smaller in nature, but so that everybody knew on a Friday or Saturday night there's something going on downtown, small or large. To me, that gives it a much different appeal than Third Friday once a month and then a big festival once a year, although I liked the Maryland Folk Festival. It was cool.
Okay. Closing question.
Sure.
4 years from now, when you're back here sitting in the chair interviewing to run for re-election, what's my hometown going to look like?
I hope better, for sure. I think more confident in your management, for sure. And I'll make that my first priority. I think being upfront with folks and being transparent. You can actually have some failures and some things that go wrong, but you need to be transparent, you need to be honest, tell the truth the first time, all the time.
What's your website? How can people find out more about you?
RandyTaylorForMayor.org or my Facebook page, Randy Taylor for the City of Salisbury Mayor, Mayor for the City of Salisbury. So
he's Randy Taylor. He's running for Mayor of Salisbury, and we're thrilled he had time to be with us here today. Thanks so much, Randy, for coming in.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it.
I'm Greg Bassler from the Salisbury Independent newspaper. Another edition of 101 right here on PAC 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and one-on-one. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.